Everyone, Tracy here with Paper Closet Designs, and today I am doing a different type of video. So I have started making and selling SVG files that are for laser digital cutters, most specifically Glowforge, but they'll work with almost all of your digital cutters. And so today I wanted to do a little video just kind of to introduce myself and show you how I paint some of my images. So let me kind of show you first what we're doing. So this is our little ornament. This would be for a tiered tray or just to sit on your shelf or your mantle. These are actually called shelf sitters, and they come with a stand. I haven't glued it on yet, but they come with a stand for the back so that they set up. So I've got a bunch of those. I'm doing some round signs. This is my Hello Fall. See if you can see that. And it's all layered, and it has the faux shiplap backing on it. And these come optional with holes or not. So you can either hang it if you cut it with the holes, or you can just display it like in a plate display or easel or something like that. So we have these, and then we have the rectangle shiplap. This is our fresh cut Christmas trees, and they have the faux shiplap as well, and the little snowflakes that are engraved, and then all of the images. So today I'm going to show you with my little Merry Christmas. This is our Christmas truck ornament, and I want to start from the very beginning and show you how I painted this and assembled it. I do have some other videos explaining the software, what you'll get when you purchase an image, and all of that. That's in another video, so watch for that. So when I cut mine out, especially if they're small like this, I will put tape across the piece just to hold all those little pieces. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually I'm going to separate this because I've got the back piece. And this is an optional step. You don't have to do this. So the back piece has the Merry Christmas engraved in it. And then this is the smaller pieces. And I'm just going to remove this tape, and then you'll see what I'm talking about. So we have, this is your outer rim, and I'm actually not going to paint this. You could, but for this ornament I am not. And then if I move all of this, there are my little pieces. So I have the tray, or the tree, excuse me, and it's got some score lines, the star, the truck, the door is scored. We're going to take the window out, the hubcaps, and then the two tire pieces. And these are really small, but you know what? Your laser machine will just cut them out without any problem. Okay, also for your painting, you're going to want some paint. Doesn't matter which brand you use. I usually just pick mine up at Walmart because they're about 50 cents a bottle, so pretty cheap. I like to use a wet wipe when I'm painting to do a washed look. And then I also use makeup sponges. Right now, these are kind of hard to find. You could use a foam brush as well, but I really like the makeup sponge. And then, of course, you'll need some wood glue. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to do a whitewash on this back piece. And if I show you this one, you'll see where Merry Christmas is etched out, and there's a little bit of the orange. That's very normal with your Glowforge. It kind of burns the edge. And you can take some sandpaper and sand that down, just barely, a real fine sandpaper, and it won't show up. Or you can leave it. I'm going to leave it on this one just so you can see the difference of why you might want to do it or might not want to do it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is take some paint. And I've got an old Cricut mat or silhouette mat that's way past its prime, so I just flip it over, and that's kind of what I use as my my mat to paint on. I want to make sure that that's in the camera. So I'm just going to put a little bit of paint right there. Then I'm going to take my wet wipe and fold it over so I have a corner, and pick that up and then kind of just rub it around on my mat. And then all you're going to do is just rub that on to your base piece. Now this would be the same if you were doing a sign or anything that has the shiplap marks in it, because you don't want to fill those with paint. And I always go really light. I do 2 or 3 light coats. It's better with a couple of light coats than with one heavy coat. And it's a wash, and so if the paint doesn't look exactly even, that's okay. I bought this tool at the dollar store. It's just a little pick tool. You could also use a pen, but this is what I'm going to use to clean out those marks when they get filled with paint. We're just going to go over it again. And you'll notice that when you don't sand off those burn marks, it's hard to see on the camera, but that orange kind of stays there a little bit, and it just gives it a whitewashed look. And then you're going to set that aside to dry. We're probably going to cover that about 3 times, at least 2, possibly 3. Let's go with our little truck next. So I'm going to take some red paint. Oh, I didn't have that open, sorry. Okay, we're going to take some red paint and these do not take very much, just a little drop or 2. And then I'm going to take my makeup sponge. And again, it depends on how dark you want it. So before I started, this one is kind of a wash, because that's the look I'm looking for on these. If I bring over this sign, you'll notice it's a lot darker. I went over it 2 or 3 times because I wanted it really bright. But for a wash, all you're going to do is you're going to take your little sponge and just dip a corner and kind of remove some of that paint. And then just pat it on there. Just like that. And it gives it that really washed out, faded, old-time look. We're going to do the same thing on our little hubcaps. Not hubcaps. I don't know my vehicles. Anyway, wheel wells. The reason I like these sponges is for a couple of things. They don't take a lot of paint like a brush does, but I also like the burnt edge of my wood to show. And so if I don't want paint on the sides, which sometimes happens when you use a brush. Okay, so we're going to set those aside. Next up, we're going to do our little trees. So some green. Shake up that paint really good. And I can take my brush and just use the other edge, the little corner. Same thing, kind of dab it off, excuse me. And when you do it soft like this, those etched lines or score lines show up. Where if I were to take a brush and just gob it on there, the little lines would fill up with paint. So there's my tree. I'm going to do the same thing with the star. Now, of course, if I were doing a bigger sign, I would need more paint than I'm using. But for these, you don't need very much. Oops. Just paint that on there. And then last but not least, we have the tires. And the tires have an inside piece and an outside piece. When I do little pieces like this, I will take some tape, just some Scotch tape. Oh, sorry. And I will put it down on my mat. I'll show you. This is a really good trick to have. So I just kind of put it down on my mat like that. Turn 2 ends over. And now I can, whoops, now I can place those little pieces on the tape. And I don't have to hold them down with my fingers. So we're going to take black, and do the outside tire. I'm getting a new sponge. And then I'm going to do the gray for the inside piece. I should have had these paints all opened. I apologize. Okay, so now all my pieces are painted, and I can decide if I want to do these darker or not. So I do want to do my back piece a little bit darker, so I'm going to slide this out. I'm going to take my wet wipe and just fold it so I have a new corner. Do the same thing, pick up some of that paint. It's already starting to dry out a little bit. And yep, I need some more because that's already starting to dry out. I've got my heater going underneath the desk because my feet were cold, and I think it's drying my paint out. Okay, so get a corner. And if it's not washing enough, you can also spritz it with some water. I have a spray bottle that I keep on my desk, and if I need to, I'll just spritz that paint to give it even more of a wash. And I'm kind of going fast this time. Make sure you clean out those little lines. And we're just gonna kind of do the top where I was holding it. And I think for me that is dark enough. Now you could go over it one more time. When I did my Hello Fall, I think I did this one 3 times for the background, but on these I really wanted them to look kind of old-fashioned and washed out. So I'm not even going to paint any more of these. I'm just going to leave them as is. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to build this up. So I'm going to take my my ring, my outside frame, and some glue. And this is just regular wood glue. And I'm going to kind of add some dots around it. And then line it up right there. And this glue is some that I bought at the dollar store. It's called Super Glue Wood Glue. It takes 24 hours for it to be permanently dry, but it gives you maybe 2 or 3 minutes where you can push it around, move it around like you need to, and then it starts to stick, and so you can't really move it much more after that first couple of minutes. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I'm going to place everything on here so that I've got it where I want it before I start gluing. If you start putting stuff down and gluing things, you might run out of room on the top or the bottom, or it's not all centered. So I line everything up. I'm not going to put those little centers in for the tires just yet, to make sure that everything is going to fit and looks good. And it does. And now we can go ahead and start to glue stuff. So I'm actually going to start with the wheel wells here. Like I said, these pieces are kind of small, but then the Glowforge just cuts them out perfectly. Now I'm going to add that on. For the little inside dots, I'm just going to add a drop of glue inside there. Stick it in. and you know what? I did miss just a little tiny bit of paint on that one, so let's see if we can do it. Not too bad. Okay, now let's do this one. So in our family, my sisters and I, there's 4 of us, and I have 3 sister-in-laws. We do an ornament exchange every year, handmade ornaments. And now that the nieces, cousins are getting old enough and starting to get married, they're participating. And so we make about 15, I think we're making 16 this year, ornaments to share. And this is the one that I'm going to do. And we have some really pretty ones. We have some that knit and some that sew and embroidery and some paper crafters. And they're just a lot of fun. Don't worry too much if that glue oozes out because it does dry clear. Okay, next I'm going to put my truck on. Then we're going to add the little tree. This is a fun beginner project. It is small, but it doesn't take a lot of wood. You can cut, I'm trying to remember how many of these I did. I think I did 8 on one sheet of wood. I can't remember, but they're a great little beginner project. Okay, so there is my ornament and it is all done. Now normally I would not finish it until the paint is dry, but I want to show you how I put this together. So I'm going to go ahead and do that even though it's not completely dry. Got paint on my hand. Okay, so you will need a bead, optional, and 2 little pieces of ribbon. They're about 4 inches long. And then some twine. And I think this is about, well, that might be short. I usually cut it about 15 inches so that I have plenty. But all you're going to do is you're going to fold this in half, your twine, and I'm going to send it through my hole on the back. And pull that loop up. I'm going to take my 2 pieces of ribbon and lay them right on the top, and then thread these 2 pieces through the loop and pull it down really, really tight. Oh, and I moved my tree. Let's pull it down real tight. Okay, now I'm going to take my beads and thread it through, or thread the twine through there. Push it down and just make that really tight again. Tie a knot at the top of the bead. And then tie another knot close to the top of your twine. And then you can kind of separate your little tails of your ribbon if you want to. You could use 2 colors of ribbon on there, that would be pretty, or you could just do 1 tail. And there is the Merry Christmas tree truck Christmas ornament. I hope you've had lots of fun. I hope you'll check out some of these files and give them a try. And then one other thing I wanted to tell you about this is if you don't have a Glowforge, you can cut these pieces out with a Cricut or a Silhouette and go ahead and put them on an already cut piece of woods that you could pick up at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. You can find rounds on the internet all the time, and then you could cut all of this out of your vinyl and still go ahead and make it. The SVGs will work the same, but they are designed to do the wood. And I use, just in case you're wondering, these are all cut out of 1/8 inch MDF board. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that little video. Leave a comment, tell me what you're thinking. If you like a Glowforge or other digital cutters, hit subscribe down below so that you don't miss any of my videos. And thanks for joining me today. Have a great day.